A $200 million trade offer just sent shockwaves through the NFL, and it has Garrett Wilson's name right in the middle of it. Out of nowhere, the league woke up to reports that the New York Jets are dangling their star wide receiver, multiple first-round picks, and a blockbuster package that sounds more like a fantasy league trade than real life, all for one player, rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders. It's the kind of move that makes you stop scrolling and ask, wait, what? How did a 22-year-old quarterback who hasn't even seen the field become the centerpiece of a deal worth more than most team rebuilds? This isn't just another rumor. This is a shot fired across the league, a statement that the Jets are done waiting, and they're willing to risk everything for their next franchise quarterback. And for the Browns, it's a moment of truth, because when another team values your rookie more than you do, that's not just business, that's an identity crisis. But what if this trade isn't really about talent at all? What if it's about fear, indecision, and a front office that can't seem to decide whether it's building for the future or running from it? When the story first broke, insiders couldn't believe it. Garrett Wilson, the Jets' offensive cornerstone, a Pro Bowl-level receiver in his prime, was being floated in a $200 million trade package. Not for an MVP, not for an elite veteran, but for a rookie quarterback who hasn't even started an NFL game. The name Shedeur Sanders instantly lit up every sports headline, every group chat, every debate show. The reaction wasn't just shock, it was disbelief. Why would the Jets give up that much, some asked? Why would the Browns even hesitate, others fired back. But that's exactly what makes this story different. Because behind the headlines and dollar signs, this isn't just a trade rumor. It's a clash of two completely opposite mindsets. On one side, you have the New York Jets, desperate for stability at the most important position in football. A team that's tired of living in quarterback purgatory and ready to make a statement that screams, "We're done rebuilding." On the other, the Cleveland Browns, a franchise with a history of overthinking, second-guessing, and somehow turning promise into chaos. To the Jets, Shedeur represents hope, youth, energy, and a clean slate. To Cleveland, he represents uncertainty, a potential star they're too scared to unleash. And that's why this trade talks feel less like business negotiations and more like an exposé on how two teams view risk, reward, and trust. Reports say the Jets didn't just toss out Wilson's name as bait. They've built an entire offer around him. A multi-pick package, roster flexibility, and a willingness to hand Shedeur the keys to the offense the moment he arrives. That's not a team experimenting. That's a team committing. The Browns, meanwhile, are frozen. They've got an offer that could reshape their roster overnight. But instead of acting, they're evaluating options. Evaluating. The same word that's haunted Cleveland quarterback room for decades. Because make no mistake, this isn't just a trade discussion. It's a test. The Jets are betting on belief. The Browns are hiding behind hesitation. And right now, it's the kind of moment where one bold move could define a franchise, and one moment of fear could destroy it. But to really understand why this offer even exists, why the league's most aggressive front office is willing to gamble it all on a rookie quarterback, you have to go back and look at how Cleveland got here in the first place. Because this isn't the first time the Browns have been at the center of a quarterback disaster. To understand why this trade rumor hit so hard, you have to look at Cleveland's history. Because no franchise has fumbled more potential under center than the Browns. It's not just bad luck. It's a full-blown curse, decades in the making. Every few years, they find the guy, the next big thing, the savior who's supposed to rewrite their story. And every few years, that same promise collapses under
the weight of indecision, coaching changes, and front office panic. From first-round busts to one-year wonders, the Browns have turned quarterback development into an art form of failure. It's not that they can't find talent, it's that they can't seem to believe in it long enough for it to grow. This curse isn't mystical, it's cultural. It's what happens when a franchise is more afraid of being wrong than it is excited to be right. Think about it. The Browns have drafted arm talent, mobility, leadership, charisma, everything you could possibly want in a modern quarterback, and yet somehow every single one ends up the same. Benched, traded, or forgotten. One bad game, one bad headline, and the panic button gets smashed. The result? A revolving door of coaches, schemes, and broken trust. No rhythm, no patience, no identity. And that's where Shedeur Sanders walks in, right into the middle of a storm that's been brewing for years. He's not just fighting for playing time, he's fighting history. A rookie drafted to bring hope to a franchise that doesn't know what to do with it. And as fans watch this latest saga unfold, you can almost feel the collective sigh. Here we go again. Because the pattern never changes. Cleveland finds potential, mishandles it, and then wonders why nothing ever sticks. This is why the idea of trading Shedeur doesn't just sting, it terrifies fans. Because they've seen this movie before. The Browns always seem to let go of a quarterback right before he figures it out, only to watch him thrive somewhere else. And that's what makes this moment so dangerous. If they ship Shedeur to New York and he becomes a star, the curse doesn't just continue, it deepens. But what if this isn't about Shedeur being unready or unproven at all? What if Cleveland's biggest problem isn't the player, but the fear of repeating its own mistakes? Because that fear, that hesitation to trust their own judgment, might be the very thing that keeps this team stuck in the same cycle. And that brings us to the most confusing part of all. If Shedeur Sanders really is the future, why does it feel like the Browns are terrified to actually play him? Shedeur Sanders wasn't supposed to be a mystery. When the Browns drafted him, it was clear they weren't just getting a quarterback, they were getting a phenomenon. The son of Deion primetime Sanders, with poise, polish, and a spotlight that followed him from Colorado straight into the NFL. He walked into Cleveland with swagger, leadership, and the kind of composure most rookies spend years trying to develop. Every camera was on him. Every headline framed him as the next big thing. Yet, somehow, months later, he's standing on the sideline, helmet in hand, while veterans with half his upside get the snaps. No reps, no clear plan, just endless talk about development. But here's the thing. Development doesn't happen on the bench. You can't learn to read defenses from the sideline. You don't build confidence by watching. You build it by playing, by making mistakes, learning from them, and coming back sharper the next week. The Browns claim they're protecting Shedeur, protecting him from the pressure, the hits, the spotlight. But that logic makes no sense. You don't protect a diamond by keeping it buried. You polish it until it shines. And every week Shedeur spends as a backup isn't just a missed opportunity, it's wasted time. Insiders say the issue isn't his talent, it's politics. The Browns coaching staff reportedly can't agree on whether to hand the offense over to a rookie who instantly commands more attention than the rest of the roster. Some in the front office fear that starting him too early could backfire, not because he'll fail, but because he'll succeed too fast. Imagine it. Deion Sanders' son stealing the spotlight, dominating headlines, and turning Cleveland into a media circus overnight. For a franchise obsessed with control, that's their worst nightmare.
So instead of embracing the noise, they're running from it, keeping Shedeur tucked behind vague excuses about system fit and long-term vision. But the truth is, that long-term vision looks more like indecision wrapped in PR spin. Because if they really believed he wasn't ready, they wouldn't be entertaining $200 million trade offers for him. They'd shut those calls down before they even started. And that's what makes this story sting. Not just for fans, but for Shedeur himself. He did everything right. He trained, he studied, he stayed quiet. He let his play speak for him. And in return, he's become a pawn in a front office power struggle. A player too valuable to trade, too marketable to bench completely, and too threatening to the status quo to actually unleash. It's not that Cleveland doesn't see his talent, it's that they don't trust themselves to handle it. They're scared of the spotlight that comes with his last name, scared of the expectations, scared of what it means if they're finally forced to commit. Because commitment means accountability, and that's something this franchise has avoided for years. But while Cleveland is stuck debating what Shedeur might be someday, another team is ready to find out what he actually is right now. Because in New York, there's no hesitation, no fear, and no illusion of control. There's only opportunity. While Cleveland sits tangled in its own confusion, the New York Jets are doing something the Browns haven't done in years. deciding. They're not hiding behind vague statements about long-term development or evaluating options. They see a window, and they're sprinting straight through it. Reports say the Jets front office has already greenlit a $200 million package built entirely around one goal: landing Shedeur Sanders. And that alone says everything. They're not treating him like a maybe. They're treating him like the missing piece. Because if there's one thing the Jets have learned the hard way, it's that talent without trust goes nowhere. They've been stuck in their own quarterback carousel for years, from first-round disappointments to short-term fixes that never stuck. They've seen what indecision costs. And now, they're done waiting. The offer on the table isn't just about acquiring a young quarterback, it's about rewriting their own narrative. Garrett Wilson, multiple high picks, future cap flexibility, all of it for one player who hasn't even started an NFL game. That's not desperation, that's conviction. Inside league circles, some are calling it reckless, others are calling it genius. But the truth is, it's both, and that's what makes it powerful. The Jets aren't afraid of risk because they finally understand what Cleveland doesn't, that hesitation is the real danger. You can rebuild a roster, replace a coordinator, adjust a scheme. What you can't rebuild is belief. And right now, the Jets believe in Shedeur. They see a quarterback who's calm under pressure, media-trained, confident, and most importantly, hungry. That hunger is what Cleveland is wasting and what New York is ready to unleash. Imagine this: Shedeur, in green and white, walking into MetLife with the keys to an offense that's already loaded with weapons. The Jets' defense buys him time, the media eats up the storyline, and the locker room rallies behind a quarterback who wants the moment. That's the kind of spark that can turn a struggling team into a contender overnight. The Jets aren't buying potential, they're investing in momentum. Compare that to Cleveland, where every decision feels like a boardroom debate. While the Browns talk about timelines and strategy, the Jets are moving like a team that finally remembers football is supposed to be bold. They're not afraid of attention. They're not afraid of failure. They're afraid of standing still. And that's exactly why they're making moves while everyone else hesitates.
And here's where it really gets interesting. This isn't just a trade pursuit. It's a challenge. The Jets are daring Cleveland to make a choice, to either believe in their own quarterback or admit they never did. Because by putting Garrett Wilson, one of the league's top receivers, on the table, the Jets are saying we're all in. And if Cleveland can't match that energy, they're about to get exposed. The irony? The team with the bigger media circus is the one that actually knows what it's doing. The Jets, the franchise once mocked for chaos, now look like the calmest, most confident group in the room. Meanwhile, Cleveland looks like a franchise paralyzed by its past, watching another team bet on the player they're too scared to use. And that's what makes this story feel bigger than football. It's not just a trade negotiation, it's a mirror. The Jets are showing the Browns exactly what belief looks like. And if Cleveland doesn't act soon, that mirror might just turn into a spotlight. Because while the Jets are building around Shedeur's future, Cleveland's busy protecting its fear. Somewhere along the line, Cleveland forgot that football is supposed to be about winning, not branding. Because when you look at how they've handled Shedeur Sanders, it doesn't feel like a football decision anymore. It feels like a marketing strategy gone wrong. When the Browns drafted him, they didn't just draft a quarterback. They drafted a spotlight. The son of Deion primetime Sanders was guaranteed headlines, jersey sales, and nonstop coverage from every sports outlet in the country. It was instant buzz, the kind of publicity the Browns haven't had in years. And for a moment, it worked. The social media numbers exploded. The hype was real. But when it came time to back that image up with action, with actual on-field commitment, Cleveland froze. It's almost like the organization didn't realize that bringing in a name like Sanders meant inheriting the pressure that comes with it.
Suddenly, every press conference, every preseason snap, every rumor became a national talking point. And instead of owning that spotlight, Cleveland tried to hide from it. They wanted the brand, not the burden. They wanted the headlines, but not the accountability. So, they kept Shedeur in the background, visible enough to sell hope, but never involved enough to take control. He became a billboard and shoulder pads, a marketing prop in a franchise too nervous to let him actually lead. And fans see it. They're not fooled by the development narrative or the carefully worded press releases. They see a franchise that's using its most exciting player as a marketing shield, a way to stay relevant while avoiding the risk that comes with real change. Because putting Shedeur on the field doesn't just test him, it tests them. It forces the Browns to prove they can build around a young star without destroying him, to show that they've learned from their decades of quarterback chaos. And deep down, they're scared they haven't. This is where the Browns' problem shifts from performance to perception. Around the league, agents, players, and even analysts are whispering the same thing, that Cleveland doesn't know how to handle star power, that they draft talent for clout, not culture, that they crave attention right up until they get it. And now the narrative that was supposed to make them look bold has turned into proof of their dysfunction. Because think about it. What kind of organization gets offered $200 million worth of assets for a rookie and still can't decide what to do? A confident team either commits or cashes in. A confused team stalls. And Cleveland has made stalling an art form. The longer they hesitate, the worse it looks. If they trade Shedeur now, it confirms they drafted him for hype. If they keep him and don't play him, it proves they're afraid of what comes next. Either way, the branding play backfires. Because when your biggest storyline is indecision, you're not selling promise, you're selling dysfunction. What Cleveland doesn't seem to realize is that the spotlight they're running from is the same one that could save them. Fans don't want perfection, they want purpose. They want to see a franchise actually believe in someone. And right now, that belief belongs to New York, not Cleveland. The Jets are ready to hand Shedeur the ball and the franchise in one move. The Browns? They're still debating hashtags. And that's what makes this entire situation so fascinating and so sad. Cleveland wanted the spotlight, but not the story that came with it. They wanted Primetime's legacy, but not his pressure. They wanted fame without faith. And that's not how you win in the NFL. Because no matter how much a franchise tries to control the narrative, eventually the narrative controls them. Every franchise faces a moment that defines its future. One decision that will echo for years, maybe decades. For the Cleveland Browns, this is that moment. A $200 million trade package sits on the table, the kind of deal that could reshape the roster overnight. Garrett Wilson, draft picks, cap space, a once-in-a-generation opportunity. But it's also a mirror, one that's forcing Cleveland to finally confront the question they've been dodging since the day they drafted Shedeur Sanders. Do they actually believe in him? Because this isn't just a trade proposal, it's a test of identity. The Jets have already shown their cards. They're all in. They believe Shedeur is worth every dollar, every pick, every ounce of risk. And Cleveland? They're still debating. Still hiding behind phrases like, "we're evaluating," or "it's a long-term process." But the truth is, hesitation is a decision, and it's one that's already costing them. Every day they wait, every rumor they let spiral, every press conference filled with non-answers chips away at their credibility. Inside that building, the pressure is boiling. Reports say ownership is split. The front office sees the trade as a reset, a chance to cash in while they still can. The coaching staff, meanwhile, is torn between fear and pride. Some believe Shedeur could be the future if they just commit. Others worry that starting him now could expose weaknesses they've spent years trying to hide. It's chaos disguised as caution. And in the middle of it all sits a 22-year-old quarterback who didn't ask for any of this, just a chance to prove himself. Fans are losing patience.
They've seen too many what-ifs turn into never-was. They're watching the Jets make headlines for being bold, while Cleveland trends for being stuck. The city that spent years begging for a franchise quarterback is now stalling on one that could be exactly that. And for what? Optics? Control? Fear of failure? Because if the Browns are worried about looking bad, nothing will make them look worse than letting another young star walk out the door and thrive somewhere else. The logic doesn't add up. If Shedeur isn't ready, why are other teams willing to pay $200 million for him? If he is ready, why isn't he playing? Either way, Cleveland looks lost, a franchise trapped in its own loop of uncertainty. And the craziest part? Everyone can see it except them. This decision is more than a trade call. It's a referendum on who the Browns really are. Do they want to be a team that finally learns from its past, that bets on its own talent, that dares to believe? Or do they want to be the same franchise that keeps playing scared, keeps letting other teams act while they overthink themselves into irrelevance? Because there's no middle ground anymore.
If they trade Shedeur, they might get short-term assets, maybe even temporary praise for building smart. But when he starts lighting up defenses in New York, all that logic will burn away under the spotlight of regret. And if they keep him but still refuse to play him, then the $200 million they turn down won't just look like hesitation. It'll look like a mistake of historic proportions. Every headline, every rumor, every insider leak is now circling back to one point. What are the Browns waiting for? They're sitting on a ticking clock, a once-in-a-lifetime decision that could either break the cycle or prove they've learned nothing from it. And here's the truth. There's no safe play left. They can't hide behind development anymore. They can't delay the decision into next season. The league has already moved on from patience. This is about courage, about taking ownership of your future before someone else writes it for you. Because once that $200 million offer expires, so does Cleveland's leverage. The Browns can either choose conviction now or watch another franchise live out the success story that was supposed to be theirs. No matter which path Cleveland takes, the fallout is unavoidable. Because this isn't just a trade story anymore, it's a credibility test. Every franchise reaches a moment when it has to prove it can handle success, pressure, and expectation all at once. For the Browns, this is that crossroad. Whatever happens next will define them, not just for this season, but for the next decade. If they take the deal, if they ship Shedeur Sanders to New York, they'll gain assets, sure. Garrett Wilson is a proven playmaker, the kind of receiver who can change an offense overnight. The draft picks could build depth, plug holes, maybe even extend the life of their current regime. But it comes at a price far higher than money. Because the moment that trade becomes official, Cleveland admits something every fan already suspects, that they never really believed in the kid they drafted. They'd be trading away, not just a player, but the last shred of faith in their own development system. And if Shedeur thrives in New York, if he walks into MetLife Stadium, takes over the locker room, and starts winning, Cleveland becomes the cautionary tale of the decade. The franchise that had the talent, had the moment, and blinked. Every throw, every touchdown, every highlight reel will be a reminder of what they gave up. And for a city that's lived through enough heartbreak, that kind of regret would sting deeper than any losing season. But if they don't take the deal, if they finally double down, reject the trade, and decide to build around Shedeur, the story shifts completely. It becomes a redemption arc, a declaration that Cleveland is finally ready to stop running from its own potential. It would mean faith over fear. It would mean a front office finally putting belief in a young quarterback instead of using him as PR cover. And for once, it would mean progress instead of paralysis. The problem is, they're running out of time. In the NFL, hesitation is the same as surrender. Other teams move. Other teams evolve. The window never stays open for long. Every hour that passes without a decision adds fuel to the chaos. Fans frustrated, media speculating, players whispering. The locker room can feel it too. Veterans know when an organization's lost direction, and right now, that's exactly what it feels like in Cleveland. Lost. And then there's Shedeur himself. He's handled this circus with more composure than anyone else involved. No public frustration, no outbursts, no social media meltdowns, just quiet confidence and patience. But that patience won't last forever. Every competitor reaches a point where waiting starts to feel like wasting. How long before Shedeur looks at the Jets' offer and starts wondering what it would be like to actually play, to actually lead, to be in a city that wants him? Because once that thought takes hold, there's no pulling it back. That's the part Cleveland doesn't seem to understand. You can't half-develop a quarterback. You can't sell fans a dream. You're too scared to chase yourself. At some point, you have to pick a lane. Either Shedeur Sanders is your future, or he's your mistake. But you can't keep pretending he's both. If they play it safe, they'll lose him. If they play it bold, they might finally break the curse that's haunted this team for years. Because sometimes, the only way to change your story is to risk rewriting it completely. So here's the truth, Cleveland. This isn't about Garrett Wilson. It's not about the $200 million. It's not even about Shedeur Sanders anymore. It's about you. It's about whether you finally step out of the shadow of your own fear and prove that you can build something real, or whether you let another chapter of what could have been define you. Because the NFL doesn't wait for indecision. It rewards courage. And right now, all eyes are on Cleveland. The clock's ticking. One decision, two futures. Make the call. So here we are, the $200 million question that's got the entire NFL talking. Does Cleveland finally wake up and believe in the quarterback they drafted? Or do they play it safe, take the trade, and risk watching Shedeur Sanders become a superstar somewhere else? Either way, this moment isn't just about football. It's about identity, about courage, about whether a franchise that spent decades running from its own potential finally decides to stand up and own it. Because here's the thing, history doesn't remember who played it safe. It remembers the ones who took the risk, made the call, and changed everything. The Jets are ready. The offer's on the table. In Cleveland, they've got two options. Take control of their story, or let someone else write the ending. But what do you think? Should the Browns build around Shedeur Sanders and give him the reins, or take that massive $200 million deal and start over? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear where you stand. Because this isn't just a trade rumor anymore. It's a crossroads that could reshape two franchises forever. And if you've made it this far, you already know, this saga isn't even close to over. Whether the deal goes through or collapses at the last second, the fallout's going to be wild. So if you want to stay ahead of it, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next move in this story could flip the entire NFL upside down. This isn't the end of the Shedeur Sanders story. It's the beginning of something bigger.